Happy Sunday, everybody. We're going to look at the global economic crisis. Now, I'm located in the United States. You already tell by my accent. I'm in the United States. There's been a lot of talk in the news and mainstream news about inflation. Of course, the cost of prices have gone up, and there's the jobs are good. Our recent job numbers: 327,000 new jobs created, 3.6 overall unemployment, which is very good. It's the best it's been in a lot of years. People are talking about the cost of goods and services, and also supply chain shortages. This is a news channel called WION. It is like the CNN of India. I watch a lot of international news. If you don't watch international news, I am imploring you. Inflation and economic issues are not a political issue. It's not a left-right issue. It's not a Democrat-Republican issue. It's not even a presidential issue. It's a global issue. There's a global economic crisis. Check it out.
It's only Monday and governments across the world.
So this is from June 20th, so about a month ago, a broadcast of a show called Gravitas. You can look it up on YouTube. It's on WION. I have to tell people, do you know that around the world, workers have been on strike and on protest? So when you talk about supply chain issues, there are warehouse workers, cargo ship workers all over the world in different countries, France, Germany, Belgium, Ecuador, that are at stop. So besides the war in Russia and Ukraine, there are workers all over the world who are protesting. So if dock workers, truck drivers, etc. are protesting, so therefore you can't get goods and services. In America, most of our anything that you have, whether it be our cell phones, our TVs, jewelry, clothes that you wear, some product or some component of that is sourced from overseas. And so we'll take a look at how that's affecting everything.
There are protests everywhere, almost everywhere. People are out on the streets. As cost of living continues to rise, shortages of essential commodities have become everyday stories. Predictions of a global recession are growing by the day. A new report quotes more than 50 economists expressing an almost 50% probability of recession. Central banks are betting on rate hikes. They're hoping that higher interest rates will bring down prices. But it may not be enough. Until a couple of weeks ago, this story was limited to stock markets. Now it has spread beyond. On Gravitas, as we assess the global situation, we also focus on India. The rupee is at an all-time low against the US dollar. Fuel inflation has crossed 40%. Is India prepared to deal with the growing recessionary pressures? What do these trends mean for you? We'll discuss all of that and more tonight.
So here we're going to have a montage about the 70s. For those of you who are too young to remember or weren't alive then, I was born in the 70s, so of course I wasn't alive, but I understand history. In the 1970s, in many different countries, including the United States, there was an oil shortage. There was a huge inflation crisis. So it's not like this hasn't happened before. It kind of seems like time ebb and flows. So yes, there was an inflation crisis in the 70s. So this is just a montage of what happened back then that people just seem to never talk about in America. We never hear anything about what has happened in the past. It has happened in the past and it will happen again. So here we go. India, 1973. People were lining up at pumps for gas all over the world in the 70s. You can look it up. It's in the history books. I believe President Carter was the president then. So yeah, you're talking about France, India, the United States, Central America, Italy. The late 1970s was not a good time. Even Israel. So again, you see what was happening back in the 70s and the civil unrest that sparked around the country. You don't have to be a psychic to understand economics.
Those
Okay?
pictures were from the 1970s. What you saw were 6 different protests in 6 different countries in the 1970s. Why were people protesting? Because the cost of living had skyrocketed, inflation was surging, prices of essential commodities from bread to oil had shot up. There was a severe
Right.
shortage of energy. Millions had lost their jobs. So people took to the streets to demand relief.
Right.
Economists call that period the Great Inflation. It lasted almost 2 decades, from 1965 to 1982. And why are we talking about it in 2022? Because history may be repeating itself. Look at our world today. High inflation, energy shortages, job losses, and the ubiquitous struggle to make ends meet. Our world today is suffering economic distress, and once again, people have taken to the streets.
In Ecuador, it's going down. Let me pause this. If you have not been watched, first of all, just in the past couple of days, Sri Lanka, their whole economy and country has collapsed. They have stormed their quote unquote their White House. It's where the prime minister. They've set the prime minister's house on fire. In Ecuador, it is going down. The indigenous people have gathered together and pretty much are trying to shut down the government because of wages and things like that. So if you have not been watching what's going on in the rest of the world, which if you're in America, they don't tell you these things. These are things that are in the news in Germany, in the UK, and people in the United States are like, oh my God, it's Biden's fault. Oh my God, it's the president's fault for a global pandemic, for global inflation, because these countries are borrowing more money that they can pay back. We're lucky here that our gas is like 5, 6. I mean, here it's like 4 something in Texas, but I know in other places it's $5, $6 a gallon. You have people lined up for hours because there's gas shortages. You have people that in Sri Lanka and other countries in Africa are facing famines. So I need Americans to get their head out of their asses and look around the world around us. We don't live in an isolated community. What happens in other countries affects here. We get goods and services and grains from other countries, other people, other workers, and other nations. So this affects all of us. It's not just other countries. It's not just us going through an economic upheaval. Other countries have it 10 times worse. And these people are not sitting back on Twitter and on the internet complaining about it. They're taking to the streets, as you can see. Yes, we have issues here in America. We do. We have other issues and other things to complain about. But the fact that people are literally starving and having gas shortages, that gives you a kind of perspective as to what is really going on in the rest of the world that is affecting us in America. And it doesn't get talked about. This is not on CNN. This is not on MSNBC. This is not on Fox.
Really similar to the 1970s. Inflation is hurting everyone. We've been talking about it
Everyone.
on the show for weeks now. Earlier, the panic was limited to the stock markets. Now it has spread beyond. The question is a recession imminent? How bad will it be? How long will it last? On Gravitas tonight, we'll discuss as we bring you an assessment of the global economy. And the biggest concern right now is the cost of living. It is going up everywhere. So reserve banks around the world are trying to contain inflation. How do they do that? By hiking interest rates. This has been done in at least 45 countries so far, meaning central banks in at least 45 countries have hiked interest rates. How does it help? Simple economics. Higher
Simple
interest
economics.
means more expensive loans. The idea
Listen
is
up.
to discourage banks from lending to businesses.
Right.
Now, when lending is contained, less money flows into the system. So businesses cut back on their operations. People have lesser money to spare. They buy fewer things.
Right.
So consumer demand cools down and inflation is contained. Basically, the idea is to restrict the flow of money into the system to bring down inflation. At least that's what central banks are hoping for. But a rate hike is not a complete solution for some countries.
Right.
Take the United Kingdom, for example. Last month, inflation in the UK hit a 40-year high, 40. It touched 9%, and it may not be the worst yet. The Bank of England fears inflation will rise further up.
Let's pause on that. The UK, the United Kingdom, England, has the worst inflation in 40 years. In 40 years for them. Inflation is up 9%. I think in the United States it's like 7%. So there are some countries, the United States, we're not even in the top 20 for inflation. There are some countries where inflation has tripled, doubled, quadrupled. So let that sink in for a second.
To 12% by autumn.
12%.
Earlier this month, they announced a rate hike. But labor unions are not impressed. They say tackling inflation is not enough. They want a pay hike. So this weekend, they went on a strike. They've also shared some data. Since 2008, British workers have lost almost $25,000. Why? Because salary hikes could not match inflation. Rising fuel costs have hit their monthly budgets, they say.
Right.
Frankly, it's nonsense to suggest that wages are driving inflation when everybody knows that this is about global energy prices. And on the contrary, the government should be getting its act together and providing real help for working people.
To be working 50, 60 hours so you're able to meet your bills and pay your rent. This is not acceptable in today, the 21st century.
Moral of the story, rate hikes may not be enough. Governments may need to give more relief, extend more support measures, and interest rate hikes alone will not solve the problem. In fact, they could backfire. A new report cites inputs from 53 economists. They say a recession is coming and that the next 12 months are going to be tough. There is a 44% chance of a recession this year, they say. On the basis of what? The war in Ukraine. That's the number one problem.
Right.
There's a shortage of grains, wheat, barley, and corn. Plus, there are supply chain disruptions because of sanctions against Russia.
Right.
And shortages lead to higher prices and higher inflation.
Right.
It's as simple as that. Look at Argentina. It has been struggling with high inflation for years. The war in Ukraine only made it worse. Cost of living in Argentina has gone up by almost 70%, more than 70%. And if this continues, inflation will touch 60% by the end of this year. 43% of their population has already been labeled poor.
Right.
More than...
Imagine living in a country where 40% of your population is on the poverty line. 40%. That's a lot for a small country. That is a lot. So I tell people, I'll link, if you want to watch this video and watch the rest of it and other videos about, the Economist YouTube channel has great things about the economy and everything like that. But I'm just telling Americans that when the pandemic hit, it was a black swan event. Look that up with the term black swan. Something that happens that is unpredictable, that upends societies and economy. They call it a black swan. There's going to be other civil unrest and upheaval. Like I said, the Sri Lanka, their economy has collapsed. Egypt's in trouble. There's 20 African nations where their economy is on the verge of collapse because they owe more money. So you think you're safe, but it really doesn't take much to cause an economic downfall in your country, get people out there to protest and at least the civil unrest. When people are broke, when people are poor, people aren't happy. Now, as to how the people deal with that, it varies by country. In the United States, instead of people getting together and understanding what is going on, people are worried about other things. And I get it. We have other things to worry about here in the United States. But again, no one's going to be around to complain about abortion when we're all poor and we're all destitute. No one's going to complain about elections or whatever nonsense the people in America has decided to smoke and mirror the American people. Because again, CNN, MSNBC, Fox are not talking about this. I'm like, do y'all not understand? People in other countries are like looking at the United States like we're fools. Like what are y'all doing? Are y'all just like not worried about the fact that y'all prices are going to go up within the next 12 to 18 months? Again, I'm not psychic. I'm not an economist. I don't have a degree in economy. That's not my specialty. But I called this when the pandemic hit. I said, y'all, the economy is going to go into a free fall. Inflation is going to increase. I just have to look around the news and around the world to see what's going on. All these companies really, really, really got hit hard by the pandemic, and that affects the United States. I don't care what anybody says, anybody want to tell you. All the war in Ukraine, why we shipping all this money to the, okay, that's all everybody's talking about. Or the war in Ukraine, why are we United States supporting money? That's one issue. The issue is, oh my God, grain shortage. Oh my God, other countries are starving. But again, do people in America even care unless that's something to do with them? Oh my God, gas prices, gas prices. The moment the war hit, I sent text messages out to everybody going, y'all, gas prices finna be like $5 a gallon in a couple of months. Like, y'all wait for it. So I'm telling people right now, as we head into an economic, as things look good here in the United States, because of what's going on globally, we're going to hit a global recession. It's going to hit the United States. Prices are going to continue to go up. They're going to try to raise interest rates to bring prices down. But the thing about it is that commodities and shipping and everything like that is going to be a problem. And if other countries go to the way of Sri Lanka, where they become in a debt crisis, and there's more civil unrest internationally, and if there's civil unrest here, it's going to be a problem. So I told people time before, when people were getting those stimulus checks and those child tax credits, instead of going out spending money and partying and on vacations and cars and other things like that, I would tell people to lock down on your finances in your spending. Save as much money as you can, because you never know in a situation where if companies get into financial straits, they may start laying off people like they did in 2008. I remember 2008. I was laid off then. I worked at the same job for 8 years and was laid off. So I tell people that, no job is safe. If anything, make sure you stack your paper, get your money right. Don't go out and buy any huge frivolous purchases like a home or a car or any property. I would probably hold off on all of that probably for a couple of years. So like I said, I'm not psychic. People are like, oh my God, you called it. Yeah, because I'm like, I don't have to be an economist or go to Harvard for economics. I watch what's going on in the world. I own a business. I own 3 businesses. I have to get bottles and soaps and other things. And a lot of these things are made in other countries. And as the prices on, containers go up, then I have to increase my prices. So yes, the prices have gone up in a lot of things. So I just tell people that you just have to be prepared for it. And like I said, I hope that people are staying safe and people understand what's going on, and don't let the American news media, who don't talk about this, throw smoke and mirrors in your face and try to direct the narrative and the conversation to just a few things. Yes, we need to be worried about our civil liberties. Yes, we need to be worried about Supreme Court decisions. Yes, we need to be worried about, we have an upcoming midterm elections. Yes, we need to be worried about all that. But on the flip side, and all of that, behind all of that is wages and economics. Like, there's other people in other countries fighting for the same thing here. That wages have not paced inflation. That people are making the same amount of money and the same amount of wages, the same minimum wage in a lot of these countries that they had for 20, 30 years. Minimum wage has not been raised here. I mean, people are making the same amount of money they made in 2008 that they're making in 2022. So this is happening worldwide. These companies, these corporations know what they're doing worldwide. This is a problem worldwide. And I need Americans just to get their heads out of the sand and understand, and don't be shocked or have sticker shock or have shock when you go to the store and there's shortages and there's things like that. I mean, it will never be as bad as other countries. Like I said, people in other countries right now today are waiting in line for hours for gas. There are people living in countries with rolling blackouts because they do not have enough energy supply to keep up their grid. So if you think it's bad here, just think how bad it would really get if we had rolling blackouts here, if people were in line for hours just to get gas, if people were lined up at grocery stores because you couldn't even get grain and breads and everything like that. But I tell people, always go in a worst case scenario and always be prepared. If you are prepared, then you're ready to go. So, I mean, just get on the YouTube instead of looking at, stupid TikTok videos of dancing and singing. Go on here and inform yourself, because like I said, money is a great equalizer. Nobody wants to be in a situation where you're broke, you're kicked out of your house, you don't have enough money to feed your family, you don't have enough money to feed yourself, you don't have a job. That is the situation worldwide that nobody wants to be in. And so if that does happen to you, something bad happens to you, stack your paper. Save your money. Whatever government programs or whatever money that you have stacked up, whatever income tax check you're going to get next year, save your money. Because you never know what might happen with your financial situation or what might happen in this country with any type of civil unrest. You never know if you have to flee the country. I know people say I'm being alarmist, but I'm telling you, I have stacked and saved and done everything I can to try to put, my family in a position to where, like, if push come to shove, like, I'll have some kind of safety net, and people should be pushing for a safety net. So that's all I got to say. Y'all have a good day.